Hi, welcome to Laid Back Learning and Living. I'm Heather. Today I'm going to show you how to make an apple pie that I'm going to stick into the freezer for us to be able to use on Thanksgiving. So I'll pull the pie out on the Monday preceding Thanksgiving, that way it can thaw, and then I'll bake it off on either Tuesday or Wednesday. That way on the day of Thanksgiving, it's not going to be taking up any extra oven space, and I'll have that space for everything that needs to be baked the day of. This is a super quick apple pie. I'm not going to be making the crust from scratch today. Instead, I'm just going to use a store-bought crust that I like from Trader Joe's, and it will whip together really quick, and then we'll just stick it in the oven, unbaked, ready and waiting for us. First off, we're going to need a bunch of apples. I'm still working through the apples that I've made an apple crisp with and the apple pie muffins. We'll have the videos for those linked in the description box below. I'm gonna use my spinny apple core peeler slicer again, and I'll have that linked down below. And we're gonna slice up about 6 or 7 cups of apples so that we can get a nice hefty filling in our pie crust. All right, so I have our apples all peeled and sliced up. Of course, you could do this by hand, just with a standard peeler. And then you just want to thinly slice up your apples. That way they cook nicely and they're not still undercooked when your crust is ready to go. We're gonna slice down our apples pretty much in half. Let's see, I missed a little bit here. Send off to the side. Okay. So, and we usually go to a place that has a bunch of apple farms all close together and do all the fun apple things, apple donuts, apple pies, and apple cider. But this year we weren't able to fit it into our schedules. So I'm gonna make our apple pie that we typically get from there at home, but they sell every kind of apple pie, all kinds of different fruit pies, all frozen. So some of them are already pre-baked, ready to go. All you have to do is thaw it and warm it. And then others are unbaked like this. And you just thaw it out, maybe brush the top with a little egg wash or some cream, and you have a fresh baked apple pie. So don't be afraid to freeze your apple items. All right, now we have our apples all sliced in half, and we're gonna add in our sugar. So we need about 3/4 cup of sugar. I just eyeball this. And these are Granny Smith apples, so they're nice and tart, but they hold up really well to baking. So we shouldn't get the top of our pie where it has a giant hole before the filling. So they should stay good in the pie and nice and full. All right, and then we're gonna do about a teaspoon of cinnamon here. And then about a 1/2 teaspoon of some nutmeg. You can use already grated. I happen to have whole. And then we need about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and that will absorb the liquid from the apples and make it into a nice syrup so our crust isn't soggy. And then lastly, we're gonna squeeze in 1/2 lemon, and I'll just squeeze it in through my hands, catch any seeds. And that just brightens our flavor a little. Okay. Then we're gonna toss everything together so we can get that sugar and the cinnamon all over. Trying to jump ship. Okay, that's all mixed up. Okay, now we're gonna work on our pie crust. Like I said, today I'm just gonna use a pre-made pie crust. I like the Trader Joe's brand if I'm not making it from scratch. And I've already pulled this out of the freezer, so it's already thawed and ready to go. I have my rolling pin out just in case I need to roll out any cracks in the dough and even it out a little. Just a quick roll. Roll out any holes or cracks. Okay, looks good. So I just have a ceramic pie plate here that I'm just gonna stick into the freezer. I have quite a few pie plates, so I'm not gonna be missing it for the next month or so. And just kind of gently lay it in there. Just carefully work it down into the edges. It's looking pretty good. All right, now we're just gonna get our apple mixture. The last thing that I like to add into the apple mixture is just a splash of vanilla. I don't do it until I'm ready to dump the apples in. That way it doesn't puddle at the bottom of my bowl. Make sure everything's nicely combined. You just want to work your apples down so you don't have any gaping holes or you don't have any filling. That again helps to ensure that you don't end up with a giant bubble of empty space at the top of your pie. And then we're just going to get out our other crust. Do the same thing, roll it out, fix any creases. Ready to go. Okay, and then right before we put on that top pie crust, we're going to add in a couple tablespoons of butter, and that will melt down over our apples and enrichen our pie. Now we're going to put our top crust on, and then we're going to take and crimp our edges together. And I like to tuck my top crust under just a little, and then we'll go back and give it a pretty crimp. All right, so we're all tucked in, and then I just use my fingers and kind of go around. You can get as fancy as you want at this point. You could make this a lattice top and slice up strips and then weave them in together. You could use a fork or the back of a spoon. We're just going to keep it real simple and easy. All right, and then lastly, I'm going to cut a couple vent holes into the top of our pie here so that when it's cooking in the oven, some of that steam can escape. And this will cook at 350 for probably about an hour. You may have to shield the crust a little if you see that it's starting to brown, but the center's still needing a little bit of more time. So just use some foil and you can cover, or I have some pie ring crust covers that will do the same thing. All right, so this is ready to go, and I'll stick it into just a 2-gallon zip top bag and label that with our apple pie. Like I said, I'll pull this out probably the Monday of Thanksgiving, and then I'll bake it up a day or two before Thanksgiving. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe, and you can try to start thinking about some recipes that you're able to prep ahead of time for Thanksgiving to make Thanksgiving Day just a little bit simpler. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. All right, let's try that again.